Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. God has hidden unlimited treasures in His Word. Every time we open it, we can discover a new treasure, or admire an old one. What will we find today? Let's dig in. Here's Carla Early with Treasure Hunt in the Word.
I was surprised to read recently that the word love does not occur in the Bible until Genesis 22:2. And then it's God telling Abraham to give up the object of his love. Does that surprise you? Well, knowing God is a jealous God who does not share His glory with another, and knowing He wants us to love Him with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and have no other gods before Him, this makes a little more sense. Abraham obeyed God in moving away from his family to journey to a foreign land that God promised to give his descendants. The problem was, Abraham's wife was barren, and they had no children. No children meant no descendants to inherit the land. When God finally miraculously gave Abraham and Sarah a son, they were both very old, more like grandparents or even great-grandparents. And if they were anything like my parents with their grandkids, their love for Isaac knew no bounds. Their lives revolved around him. He was the joy of their lives. After all, this was their long-promised son that they'd received straight from God. But God wanted to make sure Abraham didn't idolize him, that he still loved God more than he loved his son. By the time Isaac was a young man, Abraham would have taught him about worshiping God. They would have made sacrifices together. Abraham would have trained him in the ways of the Lord and told him all about his miraculous birth. This is when God came to Abraham. In Genesis 22:1-2, after these things, God tested Abraham and said to him, "Abraham." And he said, "Here am I." He said, "Take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you." The test was, yes, I know you love your son, but do you love him more than you love me? God knew what was in Abraham's heart. God knew he'd pass the test, but Abraham didn't know. In Psalm 139, the psalmist says, "O Lord, you have searched me and known me." God is omniscient. He knows everything, even the depths of our hearts, even better than we know ourselves. As a history buff, I always wonder how I would have reacted in certain situations. Like, would I have risked my life to hide Jews if I lived in Nazi-occupied Europe? Would I have left everything I knew and traveled to a new world so I could worship God like the Pilgrims and Puritans did? Would I have kept the faith and secretly met in underground churches in communist countries? Would I be strong enough to stand up to persecution if we lost all of our religious freedoms here? I'd like to think I would, and maybe you'd like to think you would too. But I know deep down I'm afraid I wouldn't, that my love for God would be eclipsed by my love for my family, my life, or even my comfort. We really don't know until we're tested. Maybe that's how Abraham was. He hoped he loved God more than he loved Isaac, but he wasn't sure. So when God came to him, he said, "Take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love." Abraham's love for Isaac wasn't in question. The test was, did he love God more? And if he trusted God with the one he loved? Would he pass the test? Yes, he did. Up until the very moment he was about to take his son's life, with the knife poised to plunge into his son's heart, Abraham was obedient. Then he obeyed God's voice to stop. And Abraham went home knowing God was his greatest love. This story prompted me, as I hope it will prompt you as well, to compare the people and things I love to my love for God. Is He my first love, my first priority? Or does He have competition? What is your first love? How do you know?
You can contact us at treasurehuntintheword@gmail.com. Also, if you'd like to share a treasure God has given you by doing an episode, please contact us. You can listen to other episodes on our website, which you'll find in the description below. Thanks for listening. And remember, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.